Okay, good. Good.
Good evening. Welcome to our Council and Committee of the Whole meeting for February 18th, 2025. Bienvenue à notre réunion de conseil pour le 18 février. To open this evening, I'd like to pass the floor to Councillor Kelleran for our land acknowledgement.
Je souhaite prendre un moment pour souligner l'importance du territoire sur lequel nous sommes rassemblés. La municipalité de West Nipissing reconnaît avec respect que nous sommes réunis sur le terrain ancestral du peuple Anishinaabe, sur les territoires traditionnels des Premières Nations Nipissing, Temagami et Daucus, désignés par le traité Robinson-Huron. Nous honorons leurs liens historiques avec le territoire et nous valorisons leur contribution considérable au façonnement et au renforcement de nos communautés. Ce faisant, nous réaffirmons notre engagement et notre responsabilité envers la réconciliation et l'amélioration de notre compréhension des peuples autochtones locaux et de leur culture.
Merci. Number 2 on the agenda, declarations of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, move on to the approval of the, no addendum. Approval of the agenda, please.
It is moved by Councillor St. Louis and seconded by Councillor Ferrin. Be it resolved that the agenda for the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting held on February 18, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. We have no delegations or petitions this evening, so we'll move on to 5, Committee of the Whole. We'll open this evening with Public Works, and I'll pass the floor to our chair, Councillor Gagné.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the first item under 5.1.1 is the stop sign on Dovercourt Road. I think all information was actually shared in our packet. So I'll open it up to any questions if any council member has any. No questions? Ms. Enning, anything to add before we move on?
Nothing to add to my memo.
Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward. In the past, I think past council put a stop sign there for to try to control through traffic that cuts to Highway 64. And I've had a request from a resident there to say like it's a useless stop sign since there's no subdivision there. So technically the request is to remove that stop sign. So show of hand, everybody in agreement? Thank you very much. We'll pass on to the next item, which is 5.1.2. And I'll just maybe pass it on to you, Ms. Enning, just for a little quick explanation, and I'll open it up for questions after.
So through you, what I was doing some calculations, and we do calcium on all of our gravel roads for compression. Some of these roads that we're doing calcium on are extremely low volume. There might be 1 or 2 houses down a dead end road, and we're still fully maintaining those gravel roads the way we are on other gravel roads. So doing some math on that, we could save close to $30,000 this year and going forward if we were to stop putting calcium on those roads. So that's a decision that council can consider if you're looking for cost savings. When there's only 1 or 2 homes on the road, the only dust that's created would be typically by the residents that live there. And I'm not recommending this on any through roads because then you have other traffic as well. But yeah, for this list of roads, and I mean, we can continue to look at others, but just looking through, this is the list of roads that we came up with that are just 1 or 2 homes, or, a home and a couple of like maybe a hunt camp or something like that. And so if anyone has any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Henning. So I'll open it up for questions by a council member. I'll see if I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a good suggestion. I was just wondering if you also looked at whether there were some with 3 that were a possibility, or why did you draw the line at 2?
I wanted to look at the ones that would be the most obvious. So just more the dead ends.
Yeah.
And we kind of said, okay, just 1 or 2 homes and limited that. And once you get into like 3 or more, I mean, if that's something council wants us to look at in the future, we can do that. But I figured if we started kind of small with these ones, and then from there, if council wants us to continue looking at, you know, options for savings, we can look at that. But so yeah, there wasn't really any.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. I would just, my opinion would be to at least look at maybe 3 or 4 and see the circumstances, because if they're all close together, for example, and it is a dead end, it might make sense to consider those also. So I personally would like to see the figures for a few more. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Ferrin. Conseiller Ferrin.
Thank you, Conseiller Gagné. On that same train of thought, I agree with you. And I'd go a little further if you do explore a little bit more, but always keep in mind if there's even not that much traffic, if we can at least put calcium in front of the houses, especially if they're on the north side of the road, because we know that the wind's always from south, southwest. So I was just thinking, like last year, there was no calcium for a while there on the Eugene Road. And you did where they do the wedding, the dust that was going in there was unreal. So just on shoot that train of thought.
Thank you, Conseiller Ferrin. Madam Mayor?
I have 2 questions, please. The cost savings that you indicated, are they based just on material cost and not, it doesn't take into account equipment or operator time?
Correct, that's just material cost.
Okay, and the other question I have is specifically to actually the first road on the list, Ashburton. You have listed a trailer park there. Is that a commercially zoned trailer park?
Not sure if it is or not.
Okay, so by trailer park, you mean a vacant land with a lot of trailers on it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Nicollet.
Thank you. Does the calcium prevent the gravel from deteriorating as well, or is it just for the dust?
Yeah.
To affect the roads in any way?
Yes, so yes, it does prevent kind of the fly up of the gravel, but when you have such a low volume road, the effects of the calcium with such a small amount of traffic is probably negligible. So I wouldn't really be concerned that we'd be losing our gravel on these roads.
Can I ask a follow-up
Go ahead.
question? A resident emailed and asked, will they have a reduction in their taxes as they now will be receiving a reduction in their services?
No,
No.
no, your taxes are based for absolutely everything, and with everything, we're trying to realign resources. It's not necessarily that, okay, there'll be a reduction here, but it's so that we can appropriately spend the budget that we raise is the budget that we raise. And this council wants to focus it in getting maximum return for it, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Conseiller St-Louis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not so much a question, more of a comment. I agree with everything that is done here, and I agree with Conseiller Ferrin's train of thought. But I think what we need to do, though, is, for me, in my opinion, is look at what we have right now, and if in the future, and approve what we have right now, and if in the future we want to look, as opposed to waiting for Ms. Enning to come back to us with the 3 houses and 4 houses. I think we should make our decision based on what we have. And I do agree that if we want to look at 3 or 4 houses in a month from now, 2 months from now, then so be it.
Okay, thank you, Conseiller St-Louis. Any other questions? So hearing none, just a show of hands to support the reduction of the calcium as presented. Thank you very much, everybody. And I will pass it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, item 5.2, Environmental Services Committee. I'll pass the floor to Chair Councillor Nicol.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, are you? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Ms. Craddock provided us a detailed memo on the commercial recycling program. And I think from here, I'm just going to pass the floor right to her in case there's anything else she would like to add or elaborate on.
A tag team with Ms. Henning and myself. If you've read the memo, there's sort of, two hats that you have to wear. You have to wear kind of your municipal hat. And then there's a little bit where, it is wearing your WNES hat. And you've probably have seen some things cycling in other municipalities regarding the impact of commercial recycling post-transition. So as you know, our transition date's July 1st, 2025. And the difficulty we have compared to some other municipalities is that we have been providing commercial recycling curbside collection in the Sturgeon Falls area in particular. We do have some commercial in the outlying areas that have been using the depots, and that they've got a little bit of a different story. But here we are that as of July 1st, 2025, when the producers and their contractor take over handling the blue box, they're not going to be picking up at the commercial residents or the commercial businesses. WNES has been doing that service right now, and then WNES kind of provides the municipality with hey, we need X amount of money to do all of our curbside, and this is kind of built into that amount that has been part of our solid waste budget for the municipality. So once we sort of remove the residential curbside collection for WNES and we're left with just the expenses of running the commercial, it becomes quite an expense for as a service to continue to offer, particularly when it's a service that most municipalities don't offer at all. So there's a lot of changes that sort of come with the recycling. This is one that we wanted to get in front of you on whether the municipality just wants to say, you know what, we're going to join forces like with the other municipalities, and we're not going to provide commercial recycling. And then the commercial businesses will need to contract with third-party recyclers in order to deal with their recycling. We already have language within our solid waste bylaw that speaks about recycling not going in the landfill, but it is a concern that once we stop recycling, that we're going to end up with a ton of recycling ending up in landfill, and how do we police that? And we talked to some of our neighbors, and nobody's got a really great solution for how that works. But we would need to look at some measures to keep recycling out of our landfills. The other is that WNS continues to provide the service, but they don't provide it as part of a municipal service anymore. They would do it as their own. This is where I need you guys to put on your WNS hat. And so if WNS was going to continue to offer the service, on its own, it needs to develop a fee structure that can recover $300,000 from about 100 commercial businesses that we do curbside collection from. And I'm not sure that there's a business model that makes sense there, but we haven't done the full exploration on what that would look like or how we would determine that. It was just 300,000 over 100 commercial businesses sounded like it was a bit of a stretch. And the other is, do nothing, and WNES continues to do their service, and they continue to add it to the fees that the municipality then takes across all of its solid waste rates that it apportions and sends out to the residents that receive the service. I know it's a lot to sort of take in, and it's a lot to sort of switch the hat back and forth between the municipality and WNES, but this is where we are with commercial recycling.
I didn't do anything to add here.
No, nothing to add, but I would just like to stress, if regardless of what we do decide to go with here, we do need to look at making sure that we're not having all of the recycling end up in the landfill. So that would be something that I would like to continue to emphasize on this.
Anybody have questions or comments? Madam Mayor? You're
Sorry. Currently, our commercial businesses on their taxes would have a separate line, and is there a specific charge? So they're being charged for WNES like residential customers are for garbage pickup, or not generally because they're contracting bins?
Correct.
So then the commercial property taxes we charge don't account for environmental services at all. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they're responsible for their garbage for a bin, and they could have a contract with us or with private contractors? Okay, so currently there is no cost recovery on the service that we have been offering. That has been
Correct.
done just as an add-on to our residential?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nicol. Compared to, I guess we compare to certain municipality, you know, the services, you say there's a few that is not,
So we did some research against our bigger neighbors and our smaller neighbors. And, you know, our bigger neighbors were never in the business of delivering commercial recycling. It's not a municipal function, and so they've never been in the business. So it's an easier transition for them. Some of our very, very small neighbors who only have 1 or 2 businesses are doing the same thing now. They're getting out of it, but they're having the same kind of conversations right now. But overwhelmingly found that everyone is getting out of commercial recycling. Yeah.
is their commercial tax rate, is it similar to ours?
We do things differently. So most municipalities have their solid waste built into their municipal tax levy. And so it's assessed across everybody. Based on your assessment, the same is just part of it's just another department. The fact that we actually bring it out as a fee and charge it against those that use it is a little bit unique.
Reason for that amalgamation was because of the different levels of service, where that was kind of like a way of what they call area rating. And so if you look at where I live, or, you know, Ward 6 and that kind of thing, they don't have the benefit of the same fees or something. You know, so it was just easier to put a fee on it than to start figuring out varying tax rates. And so it amounts to the same thing. It's like area rating to ensure that those folks are paying for the level of service that they're getting. As opposed to Sturgeon Falls gets everything, door to door, blah, blah, you know, where we go to Longfield every
Okay,
Saturday.
I understand that, being residential, but commercial, there's no separate fees. So I was just thinking for a business, they would say, well, maybe, I don't know if we pay more, let's say for commercial, the tax rate than the North Bay.
So landfill commercial often use a private bin service, as we have WNES or GFL. There's a bunch of different, Miller has bins and that kind of thing. So in their solid waste, for the most part, they use a commercial bin service. But there is some municipal collection of that. What we're talking about though here is recycling. And the fact that recycling is a separate animal altogether, and that what Ms. Craddock is saying is that though we have picked up recycling because we've had the infrastructure and we took care of everything, now most of the, because of this decision point that is being provided, and it is I guess a plus, but we're out of the recycling business for residential, so the small part of recycling for commercial gets more cost prohibitive. And harder to absorb, right? So that's why we're suggesting that it'd probably be simpler to just provide notice and let our commercial providers, you know, make their arrangements with those that have the economy of scale to take care of it.
Is the contractor who's going to be taking care of the household recycling, are they interested in offering an option to commercial businesses at all, or no?
So the difficulty with that, and so, you know, I absolutely, there are, as Mr. Barbo said, a number of other folks that are in the business already for garbage and bin service that are doing some of the recycling, you know, commercial stuff in North Bay. Now, the contractor that has the local area for the residential blue box cannot pick up commercial recycling in the same truck at the same time. It must be a separate run. You cannot commingle the commercial and the residential.
And will the processing of the household recycling be taking place at our landfill, or is it going to North Bay?
The contractor is dealing with that.
Okay, and are we going to continue to operate the recycling processing unit that we have at the landfill?
If we are not in the business of recycling, then we would not be operating the recycling center.
So if we are not doing commercial, then there would be savings in not, like, part of the expensive, what makes it expensive is that we would have to continue to operate a recycling processing just for the commercial?
Correct.
Okay, and that means we would also have to keep a truck, so I would imagine, and I know that this is probably at the WNES board level, that we would be getting rid of some of the recycling trucks because we're not going to need those anymore. Is that correct? Like as part of this transition? So if we decide to keep commercial, are we going to have to keep equipment? We're going to have to keep a staff member. We're going to
Yes.
have to keep the processing.
Yes.
Whereas if we're just doing the transition and getting out of the business altogether, there are cost savings at the landfill from not.
Yes, so
Is that?
that's
That's
correct.
the long and short?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Grant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. So you have concerns that a lot of the recycling will end up in the landfill. So because I don't understand the whole picture, but how will that happen? Is it because businesses would be able to just put their bottles, cans, plastic, and cardboard in with their rubbish collection, and it's going to end up in the landfill because of that?
That's the fear, yes, that if that if they have to go and get their own commercial recycling contract, that they will just throw it in the bin instead.
And is there not, so they would be able to do that, and there's nothing we could do to stop them unless, could we prevent businesses from throwing their recycling in with rubbish?
Yes.
That's the goal, yes.
You can legislate it first of all and clarify our waste management bylaw to ensure that the landfill is not accepting recycling. And then there would be a monitoring program. Some municipalities west of here are going so far as to dictate the color of your garbage bag. So in Sudbury, though they've gotten away from the white plastic bags for leaves, they're now using them for garbage, so that the folks at the curb and those kind of people are policing and monitoring what is going into the landfill site. So I don't know where we would go, but we would probably have some random inspection. We'd probably, because it's commercial, have a pretty good idea, because it's a small community, who's retained the services of a contractor and who hasn't. And then by omission or whatever, or therefore, ... If you don't have a commercial contractor, then we're probably going to keep an eye as to where your recycling is going. And then we would basically block it in that way. So it becomes very much a policing thing. But yeah, it is doable.
And those who have a commercial contractor, and if we did legislate, would then the contractor, would they have an obligation to enforce the bylaw and inspect what they collect on the spot, rather than having it end up at the landfill, where then the contractor can no longer say
Right.
who it was that cardboard came from?
Well, if the businesses have a commercial contractor, they would be policing that to make sure that it's all recycling, like commercial recycling. They would be policing that because they would not be able to dump any recycling, and therefore they would be probably blocked at wherever the recycling center is. The other aspects, though, would be in commercial waste, which would be where we would have to be careful as to monitoring those bins that are coming in and having a look once in a while at what is recycling and what isn't, and determining that. So it would be onerous at first, but it is doable. And we would have additional resources that we would be deploying given the change in how we're offering solid waste management service, we will have some additional resources to deploy.
And one more question, if I may, Madam Chair. On the question of whether we should keep it in-house, or just give them notice and say, you've got to find a contractor. Are we sure that, do we know have we done a proper cost benefit analysis? So should we, get rid of the equipment, reassign the staff and just wash our hands of it? Would that necessarily be more cost effective than, let's say, us deciding, okay, we're going to charge and do it ourselves? Because then we would have a little bit more control over what's collected.
So we haven't done all the who gets redeployed, what equipment happens and things like that, because there are a lot of moving parts still. This is just sort of one of the first decision points we need council to look at. Do you want to be in the business of commercial recycling or not? And there are a couple other decision points we need to bring to council, which impact all of that further analysis on what we have as far as workforce and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor St. Louis.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So to touch a bit on what Conseiller Ferran was saying, so my question, I guess, would be how many employees do we have at the landfill itself? And if we were to go with no commercial recycling, I would assume they're not going to be out of a job. They're going to be redeployed to a different.
I wouldn't be able to make that comment for two reasons. It needs a little bit more of a fulsome analysis, and there's other things that would come into play that could affect that, a redeployment. The other thing is they're not our employees.
So the ones at the landfill.
WNES employees at the landfill. And so that would be something that we would be bringing in more detail to the WNES board.
So sorry, my question though, how many employees is there?
16, like how many?
Yeah. About that, yeah.
16?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
She is.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was pulling up just so that, stay in the business, don't stay in the business. We did some sort of checking with what other businesses are being charged in the surrounding area. And the other commercial recyclers are charging sort of in the $25 to $35 per lift of recycling. There's no way that we can make up $300,000, $25 a lift. We just don't have the economy of scale for that.
So from here, sorry.
Thank you. So just for clarification, if a commercial business puts garbage bag on the side, are they charged for that pickup?
So our commercial businesses generally have bins. We have a few commercial businesses in the downtown core that don't have bins because of space, and then we do kind of hand bomb, and WNES charges them for that service.
Okay.
There are very few limited in the kind of the outlying areas that actually have paid municipals for landfill access in, living in areas like that there are a few businesses that pay for landfill access, but in the core here, they pay WNS for collection.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And a follow-up question now?
Yeah.
Do we have any suggestions for those commercial business for recycling? Like, did we reach out to other companies, like maybe in North Bay, to see at least to try to keep that recycling material out of the bins?
So there are 3 companies in North Bay that are doing commercial recycling that we are aware of. Absolutely. So there are certainly folks in North Bay or regional companies that could be available to do that service. Yes.
Okay.
So we would, depending on the decision of council, would then be providing an information package and a rollout of a communication.
Okay.
So the sooner, not rush, but the sooner that we can get council's decision on level of service, then we would roll out a plan so it doesn't hit them in the face.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Mayor, did you still?
Yes, $300,000 by 100, sorry, through you, Madam Chair. $300,000 by 100 businesses. It's $3,000 a year, $250 a month per business would be approximate cost recovery.
Yeah.
Thank you, see you, Nico. The recycling, what material are we talking about? Not just cardboard.
The only market we have is for cardboard.
So that's all we're talking about right now is cardboard?
Right now we do cardboard. We do some full recycling at some smaller businesses, but again, post-transition, there's no market for anything except recycling. Recycling is the only thing we're going to be able to sell post-transition.
But recycling is cardboard.
Oh, sorry, cardboard, sorry. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah,
Cardboard
cardboard.
and plastics are recycled.
Yeah. Yeah, but we
But,
don't have a.
yeah, the only real market is for cardboard.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're doing both cardboard and plastic.
Yes.
So say, if there's no market for the plastic, where's the plastic going?
We won't, post-transition, we won't have a market for the plastics. We'll have a market for the cardboard still post-transition. The contractors that are doing recycling in the region, they do either just straight cardboard or cardboard plus other recycling. So that option is still available for other businesses. It's just we won't have the line to the sales on it, that's all.
Okay, yeah, I'm just,
So we
Trying
can
to-
sell the cardboard easily, but not the plastic.
yeah.
That's basically what
Yeah.
we're saying.
I'm just trying to understand all this and put myself in the shoes of the businesses, how it's gonna impact them. And the other thing too is we've been doing it for quite a while, so we know we've got the runs all figured out. It's just a matter of getting where we can set the plastic, right? Or who's gonna take the plastic if we keep doing as we're doing now.
So the other problem with that post-transition is that, and this is why the contractors in the kind of regional contractors that are doing the collection have already got a path through to GFL, who is the regional processing center. And so if we're going to take things other than cardboard we can market directly ourselves. We have to find a processing center that's going to be willing to take the other materials as well. So it's not just how we pick it up. We actually have to find someone who's willing to take it, you know, and they can refuse it.
So even at that, let's say you found a market for plastic, which was nowhere near paper anyway, you'd still be costing taxpayers about 250 grand, of loss just by keeping that service. So though it's difficult on existing business, and we would continue had we had the entire infrastructure together, what we're saying is that from a pure dollars and cents perspective, and what is normally done in municipalities as a municipal service, our recommendation is that we shouldn't be in that business anymore, given the change in circumstances by the private suppliers and the province changing the way we're doing it. So, but if we had all of the infrastructure that we're doing and running things the way we did, no problem. But we don't have that anymore, is what we're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor? All right, I think Councillor Rivard had his hand before you.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Rivard, thank you.
I can go? Okay, thank you. Yeah, my question was just, is there a main reason why these private pickup companies could charge $25? And if we already have everything in-house, why is it so much more for us to be doing that if we would just continue to do commercial pickup? Or did I miss something there? Okay, because they would be driving from North Bay, right? Which seems further as well, or?
So I can answer some of that, and the processing. And so they are processing through they're not processing it themselves. They are taking it to someone else. Someone else is so they are paying someone else to do the processing. And again, it's just economies of scale. Our little processing center is not meant for that. And then I can't really state on what their overhead or what their vehicle is. I suspect it is still just an economies of scale. They have more than one truck. They have more than 3 people deployed to it and things like that, so that they can handle changes in schedule and they can handle things more with more flexibility than we can. But I can't actually speak to what their business model is, other than, if you take a look at the breakdown, they wouldn't have that processing expense at the same level. Their processing cost would be significantly lower because they're paying someone else to process.
Okay, thank you.
For you, Madam Chair. On the second page of the memo, you outlined 3 options for us to consider. The second option is for WNES to develop a fee structure to cover the cost of commercial recycling. But if we're looking at a cost recovery, whatever that fee structure is, it's in no way going to be competitive with what the private market can offer.
No, like I said, we didn't do the full analysis until we knew where council was going to go, but just kind of off the top, based on the volume that we do compared to the lifts that they're doing, I see how it can be.
So even if council were to take option 2, it wouldn't necessarily be attractive to our commercial operators.
Your quick math in an earlier comment nailed it, right? $250 a month.
Yes.
So, that's, you see your fees increased by that amount. I would say the private sector, let them handle it.
I have one other question in regards to that. Would there be any value to our ratepayers in the municipality contracting with one of these contractors and continuing to provide the service through a contractor? Or would that be against, I don't know, collective agreements, or do you know what I mean? So keep the service the same, but us use the contractor and then charge back at cost or cost recovery on that.
And if we're going to charge back the cost recovery on a contract, we're just adding a layer of complication to it. If the council was saying, hey, no, we want to actually absorb the cost and we're going to spread it across our solid waste, we're going to spread it across our taxation, and we're going to pay for the cost without the chargeback, that is something that council could look at what is the best service to contract with in order to do that. But if we're just going to contract and then bill it back to the commercial, I think we're just adding layers of complexity in it.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Gagne?
I have one question. I was under the impression the commercial big boxes were just any kind of garbage that was going in there, like recycling, any material, any waste. I thought it was like a multi. No. Like, let's say I do renovations on an old house and I technically take all my material, whatever is garbage, my shingles, my wood, cement, rock, and I just dump it in the bin, and then the waste management picks it up, dumps it, and then it's empty, and then they come back every week or whatever arrangement.
It's called mixed waste. So all of that is mixed construction waste, and there's an additional fee for that. But yeah, no, that's just waste. In terms of recycling, even in our backyard here, we have a whole shed full of cardboard, and then we have one of those bins, and that's how it works at other municipalities. But if you're doing construction, and I've rented it as well, yeah, construction waste could be mixed that way.
Okay.
But there's a higher fee for it.
Okay, thank you.
From here, Councilor Stewart.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just, good discussion around the table. I think we're probably looking at trying to get a decision based on the timeframes that are in our package here. I think I'd probably be looking at option 1 if we're looking at providing direction to staff. Give a good, fair amount of time for businesses to contract where they need to contract, but I don't feel like we're leaving businesses high and dry. There's opportunities for them to get into their own arrangements for recycling moving forward. So I wouldn't, $300,000 to put on the taxpayers' backs or a good part of that, even if we had some kind of model where some of the funds are coming from, fee for service or however we frame it for the businesses themselves. We're all aware
taxes and the challenges, and if we can find some savings and still provide an opportunity for businesses to keep going with their own contracts for recycling, that's probably where I'd be leaning towards.
Councilor Pelletier.
One more question. So if I understand right, this is just for the commercial side of it. So residential, cardboard, plastic is going to the dump.
No. So, like the producers, that's the term they use. The producers are responsible now for recycling in Ontario. And so they have contracted regionally for collection. So the residential stuff is the stuff that actually goes in what we know as blue box. And so starting July 1st, they're still going to have blue box collection. It's just going to be different trucks coming and doing the curbside collection.
Okay, it's not going to be a LP landfill anymore.
No.
So all residential too? then?
All residential.
Really?
Yep. So all residential that we are currently doing curbside garbage will get curbside blue box. Those that don't have curbside garbage will continue to have depot service, except it's going to be different trucks picking it up and hauling it away.
Okay, thank you.
From here, I was wondering if anybody else would be in favor of option 1. If there's another question. Okay, perfect. Is that all you need?
That's perfect. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Sorry, yes.
Sorry, Madam Chair. What about, should we not start thinking about enforcement? And as you said, legislating now rather than waiting until
Right.
we have a problem on our hands.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Madam Chair. So the next stage would be a resolution indicating council's selection. As well, then environmental services staff will be bringing forward proactively both regulatory tightening up if it needs to be, as well as a communication plan in order to take care of it. And then at the operational level, we'll be, of course, looking at ensuring that we have controls. But that will be developed by WNES in this case, because they're the only ones who would be accepting that kind of commercial waste. Typically, other than what Ms. Craddock indicated, there's 2 or 3 that would either go to Vernon or Living, but for the most part, this is affecting the main site on Highway 17. So WNES, you as the shareholder and the person responsible, the municipalities responsible for the overall delivery of solid waste. And your contractor will then work with staff, and staff will be coming with an operational plan at that board.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 6, which is our regular meeting. First item on the agenda, 6.1, the consent agenda.
It is moved by Councillor Ferran, seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Be it resolved that the consent agenda for the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting held on February 18, 2025 be approved as presented.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. We have nothing in planning, correspondence, or unfinished business. Move to 6.5, new business, 6.5.1.
It is moved by Councillor Ferran, seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Whereas at a meeting of February the 4th, 2025, Council for the West Nipissing Municipality reviewed the property tax reduction application policy. Be it resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality approves the property tax reduction application policy, which policy shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed, and be it further resolved that the tax collection policy shall form part of the West Nipissing policy manual.
Questions, comments? All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 6.5.3,
It is
or no,
moved.
6.5.2.
It is moved by Councillor Ferran, seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Whereas at the February 4th, 2025 meeting, Council received and reviewed discretionary grant applications for proposed fee waivers and financial support for 2025. Be it resolved that pursuant to policy number 2024-137, discretionary grants, Council hereby approves 2025 discretionary grant applications as shown on Schedule A, totaling $23,409.10.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask a question. So there were two applications, I believe that there was still financial information outstanding. Those are not included in this list. One was the West Nipissing Food Bank
Yes.
and the other one was,
United 50?
thank you. And those will come back to us individually once the information has been received to your satisfaction?
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor St. Louis and seconded by Councillor Ferrin. Be it resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality hereby authorizes the execution of the school bus transfer site agreement with the Nipissing Perry Sound Student Transportation.
Great. Questions or comments? This is a standard agreement that's renewed every year,
I believe every 5.
every 5 years. Okay, thank you. Other questions? All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor St. Louis and seconded by Councillor Ferrin. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-16, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to amend Schedule B of the Traffic and Parking Bylaw 2019-60 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
The change in this is,
The school bus zone in front of Jeunesse Active.
did we talk about that?
Did we? Yes. At the last meeting, there was a letter in the last, actually, it's in this package. It's with the,
Oh.
yeah, there's a request, there's currently no, through you, Madam Chair. There's currently no school bus loading zone signage in front of Jeunesse Active.
Okay.
And they are just requesting that we install such signage, but in order to do so, we need to add it.
Okay. That's what I was confused, is that it has not come before.
Yeah,
the
no, it was-
council. It is just the request
It was
that's in
just
the
a
package.
straightforward request.
Okay, other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Ferrin and seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Whereas a request for quotations were sought for a 3 cubic yard wheel loader, and whereas 7 quotations were received, and whereas council concurs with the recommendation herein, be it resolved that the quotations for a 3 cubic yard wheel loader be awarded to GF Preston Sales and Service Limited in the amount of $250,049, being the lowest quotation meeting all specifications.
Questions or comments?
I have a
Councilor
question.
Pellerin? Okay, sorry.
I had my hands, I couldn't see.
Just Preston, where are they situated?
Sudbury,
Sudbury.
Shade Lively, I believe.
And what kind of machinery do you sell? What's the brand?
It's a Devlin, which are made by Hyundai.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, like, we're looking at $100,000 difference from a Caterpillar. Are we comparing apples with apples?
We have a firm set of specs that go out in the tender, and they met all of the specifications, yes. And our mechanic has reviewed it as well.
Right. All right, thank you.
Councilor Restal?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just the usual question, how it fits within budgeted number?
The budget was 325,000, so we're under, yes.
Good, that's excellent. And just one more follow-up question, because I've seen a lot of tenders come through, and I just thought it was, I'm curious to see why there's different numbers for the same company applying. Is it different specs for different?
Yeah, they spec 2 different machines, so they sent us 2 different proposals.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, and that's the same with the tour amount?
Yep.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you, Councilor Restal. Other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Gagne. Whereas council has received a discretionary grant application made by the Horizon Women's Center for the use of the Marcel Noel Hall and Kitchen for an International Women's Day event to be held on March the 7th, 2025. Be it resolved that the council authorizes the fee waiver request in the amount of $1,240 for the use of the Marcel Noel Hall and Kitchen made by the Women's Horizon Women's Center on March the 7th, 2025.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to see this because that means the event is back and it's always a great one. Any questions or comments on the application? You've received the financial information to your satisfaction for Horizons Women's?
For this level, it didn't require anything more, so we're fine, yes.
Okay, oh, that's right. It's only the 5,000 plus. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Oh, look at us go. It's not even break time. No notice of motion, no addendum. I will just make a brief mayor's announcement. I had the opportunity last week to host the Mayor Chapleau here in West Nipissing for a tour of both our OPP detachment and our West Nipissing Community Health Center. He had reached out to me hearing about both of these facilities and was in the area and wanted to stop in and see. So it's always a great pleasure to show others some of the best-in-class facilities that we have right here in West Nipissing. So I'd just like to make a thank you to Superintendent Mike Mayville, our new detachment commander, Sergeant Natalie Rifu of the OPP for their time, and to Guy Robichaud at the Community Health Center for everybody sharing their time and their knowledge to show off what we have. Something else I wanted to say, and now I forget. Okay, so now I forget. I hope everybody had a great family day long weekend, and with that, we are going into closed session, so I'll have the
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Pellegrini. Be it resolved that we proceed into closed meeting as authorized in Section 239 of the Municipal Act to discuss the following: personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations regarding the QP Local 53501 and 02 negotiations, and an HR update.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
So I guess I will leave for the minutes.
We're just gonna move the minutes to the back end if you want to do that.
Sure.
Better turn off the live.
Can we take 6 minutes?
Um,
Are you set up?
Sure.
Sure.